In this chapter, we explore how Viktor Frankl's philosophy of logotherapy intersects with the Japanese concept of Ikigai. Frankl's insights into the human need for meaning, developed amidst the unimaginable horrors of concentration camps, reveal that purpose is the most powerful force for survival and fulfillment. Ikigai, cultivated over centuries in Okinawa, demonstrates how small daily actions, social bonds, and mindful routines can sustain long, joyful lives. Together, they offer a roadmap, not just to endure life's challenges, but to thrive through meaning, responsibility, and intentional living. Section 1. Viktor Frankl and the Roots of Logotherapy. When we speak about the search for meaning, one name inevitably comes to mind: Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor who developed logotherapy. His insights, born from unimaginable suffering, laid the foundation for a therapeutic approach that emphasizes the human need for purpose. To understand the deep connection between logotherapy and Ikigai, we must first walk through Frankl's life, his struggles, and his revolutionary idea that finding meaning is not only a psychological preference, but also a survival tool. Frankl was deported to Nazi concentration camps during World War II, where he lost his parents, brother, and pregnant wife. Surrounded by horror and cruelty, he noticed a striking difference among the prisoners. Some withered away quickly, while others clung to life despite starvation and brutality. What separated them was not strength of body, but strength of spirit. Those who could anchor themselves to a purpose, whether it was the hope of reuniting with loved ones, finishing an important project, or simply holding on to dignity, were far more likely to endure. This observation became the backbone of logotherapy, a psychological approach that literally translates to therapy through meaning. While Freud focused on pleasure and Adler on power, Frankl declared that the deepest human drive is the will to meaning. According to him, people can endure almost any how if they have a strong enough why. His famous words, echoing Nietzsche, still resonate. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Now, how does this relate to Ikigai, the Japanese concept of a life worth living? At first glance, they may seem worlds apart, one emerging from the ashes of war-torn Europe, the other deeply rooted in the serene rhythms of Japanese culture. Yet at their core, both systems revolve around the same question: why do we get up in the morning? For Frankl, this why was the essence of mental and emotional survival. For the Japanese elders of Okinawa, Ikigai is the secret to a joyful and long life. The cultural contexts differ, but the heartbeat is the same. Life becomes richer, stronger, and more resilient when anchored in meaning. Frankl outlined 3 primary ways we can discover meaning: through work or deeds, creating something, contributing to society, or accomplishing tasks that leave a trace behind; through love and relationships, experiencing another person deeply, caring for them, or dedicating oneself to someone's growth; through suffering, transforming unavoidable pain into growth, refusing to let tragedy crush the human spirit, and instead using it as fuel for a more meaningful existence. This triad of pathways becomes a bridge to understanding Ikigai. Work that you love, bonds that you nurture, and challenges that test your resilience. These are not abstract ideals. They are practical, everyday avenues for finding a sense of purpose. The Japanese word ikigai can be broken down into iki life and gai worth. In a sense, Frankl and the Okinawan elders are whispering the same truth: that life is only fully lived when it feels worthwhile. Consider how this shifts our perspective on modern struggles. Many people today report feeling adrift, even though material conditions are far better than those of Frankl's time. Depression, burnout, and anxiety often spring from the void of meaning rather than lack of comfort. Logotherapy teaches us that no matter how dark the circumstances, there is always a possibility to reframe and rediscover purpose. In parallel, Ikigai invites us to look closely at our passions, values, and daily joys, crafting a lifestyle that naturally sustains us. Frankl emphasized that meaning cannot be given, it must be discovered. This aligns beautifully with Ikigai, which also resists being defined in rigid terms. Your Ikigai is not a formula someone else can hand you. It is something you uncover in the flow of your own life, through trial, reflection, and small choices. Both philosophies empower individuals to become explorers of their own existence. As we step deeper into this chapter, we will see how logotherapy and Ikigai not only overlap, but also enhance one another. Frankl showed us how to find meaning in extreme hardship, while Ikigai shows us how to sustain meaning in the gentle rhythm of everyday life. Together, they form a compass, pointing us toward resilience, joy, and the courage to live fully. Section 2. Meaning as medicine. Imagine a patient lying in a hospital bed, exhausted by illness, weakened not only by physical pain, but also by despair. Doctors can provide medicine, surgery, or therapy, but Viktor Frankl discovered something profound. When a person finds a reason to live, their body often responds with new strength. He called this process meaning as medicine. In logotherapy, the belief is simple yet powerful. Healing is not just a biological process. It is also a psychological and spiritual awakening. Frankl treated countless individuals who had lost the will to live. One of his patients was a depressed man who could not overcome the grief of losing his wife. Traditional therapy might have analyzed his feelings or traced them back to childhood, but Frankl approached it differently. He asked the man, "What would have happened if you had died first and your wife had to endure life without you?" The man was stunned. He realized that his suffering spared his wife the pain of living alone. Suddenly, his grief transformed into sacrifice. His suffering now carried meaning. That shift didn't erase the pain, but it gave the pain purpose, which made it bearable. This example highlights the central promise of logotherapy. Life's hardships are not meaningless burdens to escape, but potential stepping stones to growth. The therapy doesn't aim to eliminate suffering, but to help us interpret suffering in a way that strengthens us. Frankl believed that despair arises not from pain itself, but from the belief that pain has no meaning. Once meaning is found, the same pain can become a noble struggle. Now let's draw the thread to Ikigai. In Okinawa, researchers found that elderly people live longer, healthier lives not only because of diet, exercise, and social ties, but because they wake each day with something to live for. Whether it's tending a garden, cooking for grandchildren, practicing an art, or nurturing friendships, these small but steady sources of purpose act like medicine for the spirit. Doctors may treat diseases, but Ikigai treats the soul's hunger for meaning. This is more than philosophy. Modern science backs it up. Studies show that people who report a strong sense of purpose experience lower stress, healthier cardiovascular systems, and greater resilience against illness. Purpose literally rewires the body, strengthening the immune system and regulating hormones. It becomes a shield against despair and a catalyst for longevity. Frankl would have smiled at these findings, for he always insisted that humans are meaning-seeking creatures, not pleasure-seeking machines. What's remarkable is how logotherapy and Ikigai complement each other. Logotherapy often deals with acute crises, times when people feel lost, hopeless, or crushed by suffering. It's like emergency medicine for the soul. Ikigai, on the other hand, is preventive care, a daily lifestyle that nurtures meaning before despair takes root. Together, they form a holistic framework. Logotherapy pulls us back from the edge, and Ikigai keeps us flourishing once we're stable. Consider the role of small joys. A man who loses his job might sink into depression, but through logotherapy, he could reframe the setback as an opportunity to grow or discover new passions. Meanwhile, Ikigai encourages him to look at what still gives him joy. Maybe his morning walks, his hobby in photography, or time spent teaching his child. These daily sparks of Ikigai sustain him while he navigates uncertainty. Both paths converge on the same principle. Life is not only about avoiding suffering, but about embracing meaning in every form it appears. Meaning as medicine also teaches us to look outward. Frankl warned against being consumed by our own inner turmoil. He urged patients to direct their focus toward causes greater than themselves: service, love, or creativity. Similarly, Ikigai is rarely selfish. It often emerges at the intersection of personal joy and contribution to others. A baker in Okinawa may love making bread, but the deeper Ikigai is knowing that his bread nourishes the village. Purpose expands when it flows outward. As you listen to this section, pause and reflect. What is one hardship in your life that could be reframed through meaning? What pain might hold hidden purpose if you viewed it differently? Logotherapy reminds us that interpretation is everything. And once you uncover even a glimpse of meaning, your spirit regains strength. Pair that with Ikigai's daily practices of joy and contribution, and suddenly life feels not like a burden to endure, but like a story worth continuing. In the end, both logotherapy and Ikigai whisper the same truth. Meaning heals. It may not erase wounds, but it transforms them into scars of wisdom. And that, more than any medicine, is what helps the human heart keep beating strong. Section 3. Freedom, Responsibility, in the Search for Purpose. At the heart of Viktor Frankl's philosophy is a striking paradox. Even in the darkest circumstances, humans always have a choice. We may not control what happens to us, but we control how we respond. This conviction was not abstract theory for Frankl. It was born in the concentration camps, where everything, from food to freedom, was stripped away. Yet even there, he insisted that one essential freedom remained, the freedom to choose one's attitude. Frankl recalled watching prisoners endure the same brutal conditions. Some surrendered to despair, while others, though physically frail, retained dignity and compassion. They would share a crust of bread, whisper words of encouragement, or quietly comfort another soul. These small acts of kindness were proof that no one can take away the last of human freedoms, the ability to decide one's inner stance. From this foundation, logotherapy introduces responsibility. Freedom alone can feel overwhelming unless directed towards something meaningful. Frankl urged his patients not to ask, "What can I expect from life?" but instead, "What does life expect from me?" This shift transforms existence from a search for pleasure to a call to duty. Every moment, no matter how small, is an invitation to respond with purpose. Here we see a seamless connection to Ikigai. In Okinawa, the elders do not simply chase happiness or leisure. They live in a state of quiet responsibility toward their families, communities, and traditions. Their Ikigai often lies in activities that serve others. A fisherman who rises before dawn, not only to catch fish, but to provide for neighbors, or a grandmother who tends her vegetable patch because the produce nourishes the entire household. Purpose is not self-indulgence. It is service entwined with joy. Logotherapy warns that when freedom is divorced from responsibility, it can lead to emptiness. Modern society often celebrates unlimited choice, yet paradoxically, this abundance of options leaves many feeling restless and unfulfilled. The existential vacuum, as Frankl described it, is the sensation of drifting without anchor. Even when life looks successful from the outside, people have careers, money, and comfort, yet lack a reason to rise each morning. This is where Ikigai becomes essential. By identifying even one clear purpose, teaching, creating, nurturing, or protecting, we anchor freedom to responsibility, transforming choice into meaning. An example helps illustrate this. Consider a retired engineer who suddenly feels useless after leaving the workforce. In logotherapy, the therapist might challenge him to see retirement not as the end of purpose, but as a new frontier. What does life now expect from him? Perhaps mentoring young engineers, or finally devoting time to community service. Ikigai adds another dimension, reminding him that daily joys, like building model trains with grandchildren or writing articles about his experiences, are equally meaningful. Both frameworks rescue him from despair by reframing his freedom into responsibility and purpose. This principle also reshapes how we deal with setbacks. When plans collapse, whether it's a failed business, a broken relationship, or a sudden illness, we can still ask, what is life asking of me now? The question directs energy outward, turning self-pity into action. In Okinawa, when elders lose physical ability, they don't retreat into isolation. Instead, they adapt, passing down stories, teaching traditions, or offering wisdom to younger generations. Their Ikigai evolves, proving that responsibility and purpose are not limited by age or circumstance. What's powerful about merging logotherapy with Ikigai is how they balance urgency with gentleness. Logotherapy confronts us with responsibility. It demands we rise to the challenge of meaning. Ikigai, meanwhile, shows us that purpose doesn't have to be grand or heroic. It can be as simple as caring for a plant, making soup for friends, or playing an instrument. Both remind us that the search for purpose is not optional. It is the essence of being human. As you reflect on this section, ask yourself, what freedom do I still have, even in difficult situations? And what responsibility comes with that freedom? These questions open the door to discovering your own Ikigai. They remind us that while life is unpredictable, meaning is always within reach, because meaning is not given by circumstances, but created by our response to them. Section 4. Discovering Meaning Through Work, Love, and Suffering. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning in life is not hidden in abstract philosophy, but discovered in the real, everyday experiences of human existence. He outlined 3 primary pathways: through work or achievement, through love and human connection, and through the way we face suffering. Each path offers a different doorway into purpose, and together they mirror the multifaceted nature of Ikigai. First, consider work. For Frankl, work was not simply about earning money or climbing the career ladder. It was about creating something of value, leaving behind a trace of ourselves in the world. This might mean writing a book, building a bridge, designing a product, or even cultivating a beautiful garden. What matters is not the scale, but the intention. Work becomes meaningful when it contributes to something larger than ourselves. In Ikigai, this aligns with finding joy in daily tasks, however small. A potter shaping clay, a farmer tending crops, or a teacher inspiring children all embody the spirit of purposeful work. In Okinawa, elders often continue working into advanced age, not because they must, but because their work is their Ikigai. The second pathway is love. Frankl emphasized that true meaning often comes through caring for another person. Love allows us to see potential and beauty in others, sometimes even when they cannot see it themselves. In his therapeutic practice, Frankl described how love could transform despair. For instance, someone weighed down by depression might rediscover purpose when they realize how deeply their presence matters to their children or spouse. Love lifts us out of self-absorption and ties our existence to something enduring. Ikigai reflects this beautifully. Many Okinawan centenarians describe their families, friends, and social groups as their greatest sources of joy. Their sense of belonging is not just emotional, it is life-giving. The third and perhaps most profound pathway is suffering. Unlike work or love, suffering is not something we choose. Yet when it cannot be avoided, it can still hold meaning. Frankl's own experience in concentration camps demonstrated this vividly. He observed that even in the most inhumane conditions, some prisoners transformed their suffering into testimony of the human spirit's strength. By facing pain with dignity, they created meaning out of tragedy. This insight became one of logotherapy's most powerful lessons. While suffering is never desirable, it can be an opportunity to shape our character, inspire others, or bear witness to resilience. Here, the bridge to Ikigai becomes especially clear. Okinawan elders have endured wars, poverty, and natural disasters, yet they do not define themselves by loss. Instead, they weave hardship into their story, transforming it into wisdom for younger generations. Their Ikigai often emerges directly from past struggles. A farmer who survived famine dedicates his life to ensuring food security for others, while a grandmother who lived through wartime scarcity teaches her grandchildren the value of gratitude and simplicity. Suffering reframed becomes a source of purpose. Modern psychology echoes these insights. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that individuals who endure severe challenges often report greater appreciation for life, stronger relationships, and a clearer sense of purpose afterward. Pain cracks open the shell of routine and forces us to examine what truly matters. Frankl's logotherapy provides the framework to interpret this growth, while Ikigai offers the lifestyle to sustain it. Together, they remind us that even life's harshest moments can give rise to beauty and resilience. But it is crucial to emphasize that meaning is not a distant goal. It is found in the present moment. Frankl argued that life questions us every day, and our task is to answer with our actions. Ikigai captures this same essence in its focus on small, joyful routines. It tells us that significance doesn't always lie in grand achievements, but in the way we choose to live today. Do we greet someone with kindness? Do we give our best effort in the work at hand? Do we endure hardship with dignity? In each choice, we either step closer to meaning or away from it. Work, love, and suffering, three doors to the same truth. Frankl and the Okinawan elders both teach that purpose is not something reserved for saints or heroes. It belongs to everyone who dares to see life as a question and respond with courage, compassion, and creativity. Section 5. The daily practice of Ikigai and meaning. While Viktor Frankl's logotherapy provides the philosophy of meaning, Ikigai translates that philosophy into daily life. The secret of Okinawa's longevity is not merely genetic luck. It's the consistent practice of purpose and mindful engagement, a pattern repeated day after day. The lessons here are practical. Meaning is not only discovered in crises, but cultivated in the mundane rhythms of existence. One of the key insights from both logotherapy and Ikigai is the importance of routine. In Frankl's practice, he noticed that patients who established consistent habits, whether simple tasks or structured work, found it easier to anchor themselves during periods of existential uncertainty. Similarly, the elders of Okinawa wake up early, practice gentle exercise, tend gardens, prepare meals, and socialize. These actions are not burdens, but rituals imbued with meaning. Through repetition, small acts gain significance, forming the threads that weave a life of purpose. Another critical aspect is mindful engagement. Frankl observed that meaning cannot be passively received. It must be actively pursued. This pursuit requires attention, presence, and deliberate choice. Likewise, Ikigai emphasizes immersing oneself fully in whatever task is at hand. Whether fishing, cooking, crafting, or teaching, the act itself becomes a vessel of joy and significance. Purpose emerges not as an abstract goal, but as a lived experience. Even the simplest activity gains value when approached with conscious intent. Social connection is also central. Frankl found that human relationships are an unparalleled source of meaning. In Okinawa, elders thrive not only because of diet or exercise, but because of strong social bonds. They participate in clubs, community projects, and multi-generational households. Each interaction reinforces their Ikigai, reminding them that their life matters not only to themselves, but to others. Social engagement, therefore, becomes both a practice of love and a reinforcement of purpose. The concept of small wins further bridges the two philosophies. Logotherapy encourages focusing on attainable, meaningful goals rather than being overwhelmed by the grand scale of life. Ikigai follows the same principle. A centenarian's day may include nurturing a bonsai, helping a neighbor, or preparing a traditional meal. Each small, intentional act accumulates into a life of significance, proving that purpose does not need to be monumental to be transformative. Importantly, the practice of meaning also involves reflection and gratitude. Frankl urged patients to pause, even briefly, to recognize the significance of their actions, relationships, and accomplishments. Similarly, Ikigai emphasizes appreciating the present moment. Okinawan elders often attribute longevity not only to physical practices, but to the mental habit of valuing life itself. Gratitude reinforces purpose, creating a positive feedback loop. Meaningful actions lead to satisfaction, which fosters further engagement, which strengthens purpose. Finally, adaptability is key. Life is unpredictable, and Ikigai, like logotherapy, is not rigid. The purpose we discover at one stage may evolve as circumstances change. An elder may shift from physically demanding work to storytelling or mentoring. A young adult may discover new passions that reshape their goals. The principle remains constant. Seek meaning, live consciously, and adapt purposefully. By combining logotherapy's guidance with Ikigai's practical lifestyle, we gain a framework not only for surviving adversity, but for thriving every day. This synthesis teaches us that life's significance is crafted through choices, actions, and awareness, reminding us that meaning is both our compass and our sustenance. Section 6. Integrating Logotherapy and Ikigai into Daily Life. Now that we have explored the philosophy of Viktor Frankl and the practical wisdom of Ikigai, it's time to consider how to integrate these insights into everyday life. The challenge is not understanding the concepts, it's applying them consistently, turning theory into practice, and sustaining a life of purpose through both calm and crisis. The first step is self-awareness. Both logotherapy and Ikigai begin with introspection. Frankl often guided patients to ask, "What gives my life meaning?" Or, "What can I contribute that will outlast me?" Similarly, Ikigai asks us to reflect on four intersecting areas: what we love, what we are good at, what the world needs, and what we can be rewarded for. While the terminology differs, the underlying message is identical. Purpose is discovered through honest evaluation of ourselves and our place in the world. Next comes action. Knowledge alone is insufficient. Frankl insisted that meaning is realized through choices, through how we respond to circumstances, even when options are limited. Ikigai complements this by showing us how to embed purpose into daily routines. Consider the Okinawan elders. Their actions are often simple but deliberate: gardening, cooking, teaching, or practicing Tai Chi. Each action is imbued with care, repetition, and joy, demonstrating that purpose thrives in the everyday, not just in extraordinary achievements. Resilience is another cornerstone. Life inevitably brings challenges, whether illness, loss, or failure. Logotherapy teaches that suffering can become a source of meaning if approached with the right mindset. Ikigai reinforces this by providing a lifestyle that cushions the spirit. Daily rituals, social engagement, and small joys offer stability and emotional nourishment. Together, they create a resilient framework, one that allows us to endure hardships while continuing to flourish. Equally important is connection to others. Frankl emphasized that meaning often emerges through responsibility to other people. Ikigai underscores the same truth. Our bonds with family, friends, and community are central to sustaining a joyful, purposeful life. Acts of service, mentoring, and simple gestures of care multiply meaning, showing that purpose is rarely solitary. It thrives in relationships. Another essential lesson is adaptability. Both philosophies stress that purpose is dynamic. What brings meaning at one stage of life may shift with circumstances, and that's natural. Ikigai is a living concept. It evolves alongside us. Similarly, logotherapy encourages reevaluating our responses and finding new ways to meet life's challenges with meaning. This adaptability ensures that purpose is not rigid but responsive, allowing us to navigate change without losing direction. Finally, integration requires daily reflection and gratitude. Logotherapy invites us to pause and acknowledge the meaning present in our actions and decisions. Ikigai teaches us to savor small pleasures, appreciate routine, and cultivate joy. Together, these practices reinforce the mind, body, and spirit, creating a sustainable sense of fulfillment. The synthesis is clear. By combining Frankl's insights with the wisdom of Okinawa, we can live with clarity, resilience, and intentionality. In practical terms, this might look like waking each day and asking, "What small action today can create meaning for myself and others?" It might involve pursuing a passion, connecting with a loved one, or facing a challenge with courage. Over time, these choices accumulate, forming a life anchored in purpose. Frankl and the elders of Okinawa remind us that meaning is not abstract. It is lived moment by moment, breath by breath, action by action. In the final analysis, logotherapy and Ikigai converge on a profound truth. Life is not measured by comfort or success alone, but by the depth of meaning we cultivate and the intentionality with which we live. When we integrate these principles, we are not merely surviving, we are thriving, contributing, and leaving a legacy of purpose that outlasts our years. That wraps up From Logotherapy to Ikigai. We've explored how meaning can be discovered through work, love, and even suffering, and how integrating logotherapy's insights with the daily practices of Ikigai, mindful routines, social connection, reflection, and gratitude, supports a purposeful, resilient, and fulfilling life. By applying these principles, we can navigate challenges, cultivate joy, and live with intention every day. Next, we'll move into Find Flow in Everything You Do, where we'll uncover strategies to immerse ourselves fully in our activities, maximize engagement, and experience the effortless joy of being fully present. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss these essential insights for living a vibrant, Purposeful Life.